Young, Gifted, and Black was a public access television series originally broadcast on Cambridge Community Television in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1990 and 1991. The series featured interviews of MIT students, from first-year undergraduates to mid-career professionals. The episodes typically featured one or more students discussing their academic pursuits and social lives at MIT. Todd Curtis, a graduate student at MIT, was the show's creator and producer.
Hello once again, this is your host Todd Curtis with another edition of Young, Gifted, and Black. We're here today in the courtyard of Bexley Hall, where we will bring you several interviews with a number of Bexley students. We're here in the home of Jarrod Lewis, a junior in the Department of Architecture here at MIT, and we'd like to ask Jarrod a few questions. First off, I couldn't help but notice your models, architectural models that you have all around your room here, and this one over here looks rather interesting. Could you give us a little bit of detail on that?
Okay, this model here was the final model for the first year studio. It was based on a conceptual site. There was more model around here. There were 2 3-story buildings around this structure, and our object was to design a structure in a very small enclosed urban space, focusing on a fire or chimneys as a theme, and suiting whatever purpose we wanted to. My building ended up providing access and a stopping point to another building which is directly behind it, so that my building becomes a lobby reception area through which workers in a factory behind the building can enter directly and pass right into the building, or can enter at an angle through the front corner and pass through an atrium type lobby rest area with meeting space upstairs, restrooms, etc. The fireplaces provide heat for what generally around the area is a very cold area. There's an entry fireplace, there's a lobby fireplace, and there's a meeting room fireplace. Since fire was our central theme in heat, I decided to break up the fire from a central point, which most students did, into one. They focused into one central chimney, which all the fireplaces emanated. I broke it into 3 to break up just one towering structure and make it 3 lower towering structures.
Tell us more about your major.
I'm one of the few architecture majors at MIT, one of the only minority, as in black minority, in architecture my year. There are a few in the year behind me. There was no one in the senior class in architecture design. That can provide for isolated feeling. The atmosphere, though, it can be alleviated because of the closeness of architecture and once you advance to the design studio level. And there are other minority students in architecture-related courses and majors, such as building technology, building construction. So there is some camaraderie among the architecture students. It's very hard because architecture has the ideology on campus among other students as being one of the sort of easy courses, some of the wimp out courses, because the engineers don't picture it as being as difficult as hard because it doesn't contain as much math, as much technical data. So the engineers tend to look down upon the architecture majors, while yet and still we do just as much work. We may not do it when they're doing it. We may stay up all night for a week straight to finish a project, where they may stay up late but go to sleep every night. Our work comes more in spurts and not in problem sets, whereas theirs come in problem sets and comes at a pretty steady rate. Ours goes up and down and varies, so our hours are not really set like theirs are. So they see that we're sometimes not doing work and think that we have nothing to do, when actually we do and will have something to do.
What are the core intellectual and aesthetic problems that architects face?
My view of architecture is basically to design a feasible, usable structure to fulfill a certain purpose, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, to fulfill a purpose that has been predetermined by the client to fit what they needed to do, to fit the environment it's set in, to fit its surrounding structures. Basically just to have a complete building that, while still fulfilling functional purposes, which is still a piece of art, that pleases some aesthetic value also.
Do you find architecture to be more of an aesthetic challenge or a technical challenge?
At the level of training I am now, it's more of an aesthetic challenge. As architecture students advance through the years, it becomes more of a technical challenge because more things have to be dealt with, such as structural elements, elements within the building, electrical, plumbing, various elements, support systems that are integrated into the building, which come into play much later. As you start off not really considering these support systems in the building, and you basically design for aesthetic values, for functional values, etc. But as you progress and get closer to moving out into the real world, you have to deal much more with the support systems and the surrounding elements, etc., of your structure.
What's an architect's job? Is it to build buildings so that people see it as other than just some object that they use to go about their business?
Well, I think architects do have the desire to make a building more than something functional, and to make it a piece, maybe not a work of art, but have art-like qualities. I must admit that I don't think the average person sees a building or a structure as a work of art, because most aren't. There are very few that are quote-unquote works of art. Most people do see buildings as functional structures. I think it's up to the architect to combine the functionality with the aesthetic pleasures to make it seem or appear more art-like than some average person might. And it's just up to the average person to see what they want to see in the building, whether it be functionality or aesthetic values.
It's been said by some that MIT suffers from intellectual incest, in that a lot of the professors went here as undergraduates and PhDs, and a lot of the TAs also went to MIT as undergraduates. Do you find that that's reflected in the architecture department as well?
My general feeling on that is that most of the professors in architecture actually did not attend MIT for their undergraduate degrees, some for their graduate degrees. Many attended other schools. In fact, two of my professors attended Harvard Graduate School of Design, which is a well-known school. There isn't really as much intellectual incest in the architecture program as there may be in other programs. The professors usually are very varied and have their own line of thinking, so that you're not always locked into the same train of thought with each class in architecture you take, with each studio. Each teacher does have their own personality. There may be a general sort of teaching style, teaching format, but each teacher has their own personal style and personal desires which they want to get over in their class, and they do that. So I haven't really encountered a class where all the teachers say the same things, etc.
I couldn't help but notice that piece on the wall behind you. Could you tell us a bit more about it?
This, I guess, piece of work was done for a class here. A class, I must admit, that I didn't particularly enjoy. The reason I kept this piece was because it in fact got one of the highest grades I got in the class. And I do actually like this piece, so I decided to hang on to it. It was a paper collage of 2 different colors and 4 distinct shapes in which we had to combine these two things and create a image that we felt was artistic, that said something. And I picked sort of straight and curved lines and a basic blue and a black construction paper, and proceeded to make a pattern which I felt said something. To me personally, it's a very flowing, moving type thing, from the top moving down and flowing through the bottom through various type things. I saw it sort of as a waterfall as I was doing it, and I did it very, very quickly, which is why I think, and as far as arranging the pattern, I did it very, very quickly, which is why, in fact, I think it came out as nicely as it did. I tend to find now that if I think about some things too much, then that clutters the process, and I end up not coming up with something quite as nice. So that if I can do something quickly and get it done, then I'll more than likely like it much better, and it will come out much better.
You know, Jarrod, you talked a lot about your work and what you do with your work, but what do you do to cut loose?
To really cut loose, I guess, I'm a very social person now that I'm at college. I wasn't really social in high school, and I think that's the reason for me being very social now, because I saw sort of what I was missing while I was in high school. Once I got out of high school and got here, I saw that there's life outside of not just books, but outside of home, watching television. There's other things to do. So that now I'm usually socializing either at a party or with friends somewhere else, or going out to eat, that type of thing.
You find a lot of people around here at MIT don't have a proper balance between hard work and good play?
I think there are quite a few cases of where students work too hard and don't really do anything outside of the work. And also on the flip side of that, I think there are a few students who unfortunately get caught up in the very sociability and social atmosphere of the Boston area and the many college students. And they get caught up in it and they don't achieve their academic success because they're too busy socializing. I think I've personally struck a nice medium in between doing my work and socializing. I try to put my academic work before social pleasures. Sometimes I may shift things around so that I will attend some social function and then do work later. But I do realize that there's something else out there besides academics.
Do you see yourself also branching off into other types of artistic expression?
Not right now. I'll have to see about that later. I do like photography. I don't think I would ever do it professionally or as artwork. I do like taking pictures. I really can't see any other expression. I really enjoy architecture and expressing my thoughts that way. So I don't think it would be good even to just subdivide that into something else.
So tell me, Jarrod, is it my imagination, or are there a lot of people from Georgia running around MIT?
There seems to be a quite large Georgia presence, more largely Atlanta, Georgia presence at MIT, especially in the class of 1992. Georgia, and more specifically Atlanta, has a reasonably good reputation for drawing minority students to this area, and MIT has drawn quite a few in recent years. In my year, there are at least 8 from the Atlanta area, several coming from one high school and the rest of us spread out. I think, like I said, MIT has a very good reputation, therefore it draws the cream of the crop of minorities from Georgia. And Georgia's just a great place to be. So they realize that and they want to take advantage of skilled minority students.
Mm-hmm. Where did you consider going to other than MIT?
My considerations were Georgia Tech, which is right in Atlanta, Rhode Island School of Design, which has a very good architecture program, Howard University, Washington University, and MIT.
I see that you considered a traditionally black university as one of your choices. Why so?
I felt that I had sort of the obligation to consider an all-black university. My high school was majority black, so that was the atmosphere I was used to. I wasn't particularly looking to stay in that atmosphere, not that I didn't like it, but I felt the obligation to look into an all-black situation because my mother attended Clark College, which is an all-black school in Atlanta. So her influence considered greatly upon me into applying to an all-black school.
Do you have any regrets?
No regrets. In fact, I would have probably fared better economically at Howard as opposed to here. I'm not sure as academically or not.
I understand that you're in a fraternity. Tell us a little bit more about it.
I'm in a predominantly black national Greek organization by the name of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. It's one of the 8 predominantly black fraternity and sororities in the United States.
What's your frat done lately in the community?
One of the main things Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated is doing at the present time is called the Sigma Beta Club, which is a club for high school students, and this is currently located at the Madison Park High School in Boston. It's basically to provide leadership training and leadership roles for high school students. It's also there to provide tutoring because some of the students in the club may be somewhat academically lacking. So the program provides leadership responsibility, tutoring. It provides mentors within the brothers, and it provides role models for the high school students to quote unquote look up to and possibly aspire to, etc. Whereas when they might not have had that type of person, that type of service, that type of club to fulfill various responsibilities and needs.
This last question, this question might be a bit of a loaded question. There are a lot of residence fraternities here at MIT that you could have joined. Why didn't you consider one of those?
Concerning the fraternities on campus, I was freshman year actually interested vaguely in living in one of them located in Boston. I decided not to because I felt the dorm I'm moving in now was a better choice. And I think as I look back now, that was the much better choice because as I look back and see examples of persons now, minority people, who join these fraternities on campus, they have, in near majority, dropped out and moved out of these fraternities because the situations there weren't conducive to them. I'm sure there's a variety of personal reasons for them moving out, but generally it appears that there seems to be a change that goes on as a minority moves in and their perceptions are changed as they live there. And also I see the minorities who are still there, since the majority of these fraternities are located across the river, they become very isolated and are not aware of the black things going on campus, not aware that there are really any other blacks on campus, and therefore they can become isolated and somewhat, as the general feeling is on campus, assimilate to these white fraternities, lose their blackness, as it might be said. And I've seen that happen to a few people, and I look back now and thank God that I didn't move over there or move into a fraternity, because that might have happened to me, and I'm glad it didn't happen to me. It just seems like the minorities who live in the independent living groups of the fraternities I guess, do not fit the campus's standards for being a minority, because one of those standards for being a minority on campus is associating with, to some extent, the other minorities. And if you're isolated in one of these fraternities, there's less chance for interaction with the other minorities unless you really try. And it becomes harder and harder as the years go because you just have more workload to take care of, and it becomes a hassle to travel, et cetera, et cetera. And many people are isolated and unfortunately looked down upon because they don't fit the standards for being a minority on campus in the other minorities' eyes. So that in turn just makes them more and more isolated, and which provides greater and greater access to assimilation.
Before we proceed to our next interview, we'll give you a tour of Bexley Hall, where both the host and all the interviewees for today's show live. You can see the courtyard of Bexley Hall here. It's a 4-story structure built before World War I that now houses about 120 undergraduate students. It's situated across the street from 77 Mass Ave, the main entrance to MIT, and it's about a block from the Charles River. Although it is situated in front of a very busy avenue, the gate and the courtyard does afford the residents a sense of privacy and serenity from the busy street outside. As we pan over to the right, we will see the room of our next interviewees. Now we have a real treat. 3 interviews at once with Ronke, Kim, and Jyoti. And now I will let Jyoti, Kim, and Ronke introduce themselves.
My name is Jyoti Parwatiker. I'm commonly known as Ronke Olabisi, except my full name. Ola Ronke Mojoyola Ruth Olabisi. Now that's how I think it's pronounced.
Yes, so now you get to me, and I'm sitting in between these people with these really elaborate names. And what is my name? Kimberley Denise Jackson. Very simple.
There's a Black Student Union organization here at MIT. Do you all feel that this group really deals with your needs here as students?
Well, the BSU, it's like if you don't go, they make you feel guilty. Oh, you're not black enough, and it's not. I mean, I'm just not into all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like.
I just don't like people. I mean, it like really doesn't matter whether it's the BSU or any place else. I just don't like organizations. I don't like people.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah, there's this
organizations like
implication that you're just not being black if you don't go to
Right.
the BSU.
Yeah.
They kind of try to put this guilt trip
Yeah,
on
and
you.
like
It's really not good.
I mean, because they're different. I mean, first of all, like African being. I mean, there's not just one thing. So all Africans believe in this, whatever. All Africans, but I mean, they're different cultures and everything. And the BSU tries to like say, well, the Black American culture, all of it's like this. And if you're not like this, you're not black. If you listen to this type of music, oh my gosh, you're not black, whatever. I mean, you don't listen to black music. And I never define music as like,
Black, white, or anything.
black,
It's not.
it's music,
yeah.
and I like it. And
So,
It's just some,
I mean, you gave some general examples of things that if you don't do them, you're not black enough, or whatever. I mean, give me an example of not being black enough in the eyes of the BSU. What have you all done? Right.
We don't
no go to BSU meetings.
We're not black.
So we're not black enough for.
We're not interested.
We're not interested in what they're doing. So
Yeah.
if we're not interested, then we must not be black enough or something, you
What the
know.
heck are they doing?
They're trying to create an
knows?
American black culture. That's what I think they're trying to do. A black American culture, whatever. But I mean,
It's not something you create.
Yeah,
It's something that
can't-
is, you know.
Yeah, it either is or it isn't, and I'm not compelled to have a black American culture. I'm perfectly happy with my family, and I mean,
what my family is Black American, and we have our culture. So I mean,
Yeah.
I consider that an
Yeah.
African American culture. I mean, it's not based on what the BSU says we should do.
if I
You know,
want a
it's-
culture, I'll ask my father.
personal life and all that, but Ronke, I understand that your father is from Nigeria, yes?
Yes.
So when you talk to him about African culture, you're getting the real deal, not some watered down, hyped up version.
Yeah.
So what's like a major difference between his Western African attitude and, I don't know?
He thinks Americans are weird. And he thinks that, like, he surprised me with this because I didn't think of it before, but he thinks that prejudice here is very, very, very great, and to him it's very blatant and obvious, except he says it's very subtle and that we don't realize it here. And one of the things I really didn't care about it until like he was talking to me about something, but his last name, whenever he went to work or everything, he would insist that people would pronounce his last name correctly, because he said, your name is as foreign to me as mine is to you, but you insist that I pronounce it properly. And I didn't think about that, but like every time I hear somebody with an accent, like pronouncing like name like Smith, if they pronounce it Smythe or something, the person will continually correct them, Smith, or whatever. Whereas if it's something like Parwatiker or whatever, they get it wrong. I mean, you take it as, okay, well, you got it wrong, you can't say it, whatever. You don't really take it that seriously. But, I mean, you should, I guess, because to that person with the accent, Smith is as foreign a name as that would be.
Or as your name, which you can pronounce.
Oh, obviously. It's not as hard.
Better known as Olabisi.
Yeah.
Olabisi.
Olabisi. Ronke. Rose. One of my professors calls me Rose because he can't pronounce Rose.
Ronke the donkey. Olabisi.
Yes. Ronke Olabisi.
With respect to black and minority peoples here at MIT, what are the kind of things that really strike you?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm not attracted, like, and that goes with the BSU also again. I'm not attracted to black people. I'm attracted to people. And whether they be black, whether they be not black, I mean, it doesn't bother me, but it bothers other people. And it seems like they want to confine everybody to their own particular groups. But I mean, it's not that I don't define it. I mean, I'm friends, with you. I'm attracted to you guys as friends, and it wasn't because you were black, and it wasn't because it wouldn't have been if you were not black. It would have been because I like you. Whereas, it seems like a lot of like in the BSU, if you're black, they'll notice you and then want to be your friend, whereas opposed to just, oh, you're a nice person, I want to be your friend.
Compared to the schools you came from, the high schools you came from before coming here, what were the proportion of black students? Is it relatively less or greater here at MIT?
Well, I know one reason that it kind of struck me as odd is because, well, Ronke and I went to the interface program that they have here for pre-frosh.
Yeah.
And what it is, it's a minority program, and there are blacks and Latino Americans and Native Americans also. And one thing they did harp on was that you were a minority at MIT, and they were always going in on the point that you were a minority, and you have to, be proud of what you are. You're a minority. So, you figure you get here, and there's only maybe one or two other black people running around on campus, but there was a whole lot, And it was just embedded in your mind that you were such a minority that you have to do something because you're such a minority, and it's not like that.
Yeah,
I don't see why they had to do that.
It seemed like nothing that I consider like a racist incident has ever happened to me. Like, and I haven't been surrounded by like blacks all my life, mostly whites and everything, and nothing like that has ever happened to me. But they kept going on about how what a minority I was, and I was already used to being a minority, but they kept going on about, oh, you're gonna bump into all these racist issues, all these, you're gonna have to be better than those around you, you're gonna have to prove yourself more, because like for the women they talk to, because you're a woman and because you're black,
a minority
and
woman.
and nothing like that. I've never encountered it, and they made me like expect it almost, and so I'd try and look for it. And, I mean, some things you can talk yourself into either way. Well, this was because of this. She didn't say hello to me because I'm black. Or, I mean, but I never encountered anything like that. And I think they... And
well, I encountered it several times. The most common thing I've encountered is this view of, oh, the reason you got in was because you were black and you were a woman. And I've encountered that in several people. And even once in someone I considered a friend or someone I knew quite well said this to me. And I mean, I didn't get hurt by it because I just don't really care what anyone thinks, because I think people like that are idiots and just write them off as ignorant. But, you know, I have heard it several times, and I have heard people, I guess, won't realize I'm black or something and will say things like, oh, I can't believe these people here, you know, they're taking away scholarships and financial aid from us and all this sort of thing. And
yeah. I mean, I encountered that in my school, but at the time, I mean, I also thought that the only reason I got in was because I was black. So I can't really blame them for thinking that when I thought it myself. But I mean, the one thing that Interphase did for me was prove to me that I'm here because I have a brain.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this was the first place I had ever encountered this sort of thing. You know, it's like
I've never
I
encountered
had been
that here.
to
yeah, I haven't encountered
I've
it.
encountered it other places, but not
schools
here.
where I was like the only person or one of maybe 5 in the whole school, and that was the first time I had ever encountered anything like that was when I came here.
Yeah, I didn't.
And it was just like, oh, these people are stupid. Yeah. Besides the fact that I think more than half the people here are stupid anyway. So it was just like,
that's just Jyoti's opinion of everybody.
Stupidity and MIT.
Yeah.
You know, it's
But
not
I
a
mean,
big
it's
deal.
really funny because like my brother was going on about it. He like got into this argument with one of his friends, and like one of his friends was saying that they don't need anything like affirmative action anymore or anything because everything's pretty equal. And he's saying all these blacks going to college with having to pay no money. And my brother went off on him and said there are only 3% black people in college now. And the guy goes, well, look at you. And he goes, yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. And he said, and you're worried about blacks getting in over whites? He says, actually, what you should worry about is alumni children, because more of them get in than blacks, except you can't see them. You can't tell who's the alumni child, except you can tell who the black child is. And so they get, it's all twisted and perverse. And then the scholarship complaint. Joanna did a good thing on that.
Yeah,
a white person can get a black Negro scholarship thing because it's not for because you're black. It's because you're going to a black college. It's for the college,
right.
not for
and somebody was complaining about how basically someone was complaining about how blacks are getting all these scholarships and coming here to MIT with all these scholarships. And one thing Joanna was like, well, no, if you get one of those black scholarships, you have to go to a black college.
Yes,
and
you can
cannot,
be white.
you can be white and go to the black college as long as you can get one of those black scholarships. But there's nobody here with one of those scholarships.
People don't realize that.
I'm not swift. Which Joanna are you talking
about? Okay, Joanna Hardy. She lives here in the dorm.
She's black too.
She lives over in Kingsman, right?
Kim, you're in Course 4, which is the architecture department here, doing visual studies. Have any of you seen any kind of how can I say it, discrimination or at least snobbishness from some of the technological faction here against the liberal arts and against things that are not widgets and buttons and dials?
I think the worst kind is just this whole ignorant thought of science is great and everything else is stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, I've heard one of, Caroline, I don't know whether you knew her.
No.
she went to Wesleyan because she wanted to do English.
Yeah, Caroline Lee was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and everyone just kept arguing with her and saying, why would you want to do that? It's not marketable. Oh, that's stupid. It's just intellectual masturbation. There's just, why would you want to go off and do this? It's not worth it. It's not marketable. You're not going to make any money. And it was like, she wants to do it because she wants to do it. She likes the subject. She enjoys it. That makes a hell of a lot more sense than making one more angry person who didn't follow their dreams and is pissed off with the world and is taking it out on everyone they meet. I mean,
It's really better
if you
on
want
her
to
like
do
that.
science, that's great. I'm really happy for you. But if you don't, you shouldn't be persecuted. These people aren't any less intelligent because they don't want to do a technical degree. They don't want to have a technical degree. And it's just, even in the technical things, like if you're cognitive science, people immediately think you're less intelligent or you're taking the easy way out. Or if you're course 4, oh, you're stupid.
Yeah. Why
are
would you want to
doing
do that?
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it's-
must be dumb. You just can't.
You just
go
can't
through the
grasp
technical
those technical
workout,
concepts or
At this
something
point,
like
I
that.
think it might be instructive to get Kim's view of this anti-course 4.
Oh yeah.
So what kind of anti-intellectual ignorance have you seen?
Oh, I
about
guess
this
if this is Cambridge television, you should
You
say
could-
that
well,
course
course
4
4 is architecture, and then what I'm doing is course 4B, which basically you kind of design your own major within the architecture department, and I'm focusing on video and film, and basically, I know film, and basically, the problem I come across is people always, oh, you're course 4. You're taking all those nice artsy-fartsy classes, Oh, wow, I wish I could do that. You must have it so easy and blah, blah, blah. And it's so easy. Oh, you're course 4. You don't have any work to do or something. And now Ronke realizes that, oh, my gosh.
No, I realized
it's really
last
funny
year
because
I
last
always went
year,
to
I know,
do it.
last year, she always went to studios with me to study because I'd always go there and I'd stay there all night just to do some of the projects.
I needed to stay
And
awake.
she needed to stay awake doing her work. And then last term, I was taking 2 separate course 4 studio type courses, and it was a lot. I was doing all-nighters all the time, and a lot of people just don't understand, that course 4 isn't just, drawing a couple drawings and going to sleep early every night and getting up, and I'm serious. They all believe like, oh, these hard technical majors, we do all the rough work and we're always working, and course 4, oh, you have it so easy. And it's just not what everybody thinks. It's really annoying. They don't even
because
try to understand it.
Even like our one of our fencing coach at
Yeah.
first, she's like, Kimberly's in course 4. She'll just begin in studio a couple of times and then be out. Ronke, you're course 16, which is aeronautical engineering. Oh, we're never gonna see you again. Now, what happened was they never saw either.
They never
of us
saw
again.
either of us.
I mean, we spend about the same amount of time. I mean,
It was really bad.
sometimes
it was a bad
mine
term.
is mostly grunt work. Sometimes I can't understand it at all. But it's a conceptual, and I mean hers is
Maybe I'll be
grunt
able
work
to understand it, but
and-
it
but it
takes
takes
just as
creativity and
long, and it
everything,
takes
and
just as much.
creativity and understanding are both like they take thought. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they
mean,
take
you're
the same
using
amount
your
of thought,
brain.
yeah.
It's still a lot
and
of effort
still
you're putting
a lot
in.
of the
It's-
equations you're doing is just grunt work, and a lot of the cutting and
Yeah,
building is
building
well,
is
I mean,
a lot of just
it's just
tedious work. It gets to be
uses
really
your
tedious,
mind.
and everybody thinks it's just so simple.
yeah, it's not.
When it's just everyone who's doing technical degrees are just so unhappy with their
Right,
courses.
right.
They're just
Or a
jealous 'cause
lot of
you're
course
actually
4s are
enjoy what you're
actually
doing.
enjoy what they're doing, and so yeah, they're kind of
Yeah,
just like
it's
so
grunt
rare.
work that they enjoy.
yeah, basically.
Get this right. You're saying there's a large number of students at MIT who really don't like what they're doing?
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
They
either
want
there's a
money.
large number, or I'm just meeting the ones who don't like what they're doing.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they're not unhappy to be here, and they're not. I mean, I'm unhappy to be here. I hate this place. But they're not like me. They're not like unhappy and hate this place. They just, they don't like the courses they're taking. They think a lot of them are tedious or whatever.
They can't wait to be through.
Yeah, they can't wait to be through. So we can make lots of money and be yucky.
Yeah, that's one of the things that everybody always, but I'm in a course that'll make lots of money, you know? It's like
I was in a course
I'm an
that
electrical
would make
engineer.
lots of
I'll
money,
make lots of money, you know?
I'm going to go be a vagrant.
Yeah,
Right?
really.
Because I hate all of my unified classes so far, but I understand that after I pass this, it's supposed to get better. I don't know whether I'll like it then, but I know that I'll like what I'll be doing. And it really doesn't concern me right now how much money I'll be making, but everybody I've talked to in like a course 6, they can't wait till it's over. I can't wait till it's over also, but I know that I'll like what I'll be doing because I've worked in Europe, in like working on the space pods and everything like that, and I know that I enjoy doing that. I just have to get through this yucky stuff. Now these people, they're like, oh, I hate working on this circuit board. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate these classes. I hate it. I hate it. And they're like, but I can't wait to get through so that I can make money. And I just can't. That doesn't
One
make sense.
objective is just to
Yeah.
go out and make money. It's not like to enjoy what you're going to be doing when you finish. It's just to go out and make money. And it's not right.
There was a bit of a scandal last year at MIT concerning one of the introductory computer programming courses, and the upshot of it was several students were convicted of cheating on one or more of the homeworks and were given various sanctions and letters of reprimand and such. What do you all think about that scandal and the things that led up to it?
I
don't think they were cutting
No.
corners. I
No.
think it was a badly taught class.
I was in that class.
Yeah, she was in
So
that.
I know what it was like. I went to the lectures a couple of times. The lectures weren't helpful at all for the problem sets. What he spoke about, course 1 is like in
Civil
engineering, and 100 is C programming. And I stopped going to the lectures because they just took an hour out of the time that I could be working on the computer programming, and they didn't help you at all. What he talked about was why people use C, basically, and the concept of the language, but he never really explained how to program in the language. And the only way you could learn was by the TAs. And all the problem sets, it's supposed to be a 12-unit class, so ideally you spend 12 hours on them. All the problem sets, and it was an introductory class. Now, I knew people who had been programming in C for longer periods of time, and they would have problems with the problem sets. It was not introductory at all. It wasn't that these people, 70 students were caught cheating on this. The reason they cheat is because they couldn't do it. And because, when I took it, I was a freshman, so I could spend more time because freshmen are pass-fail, so I wasn't really concerned about the grade as opposed to the just passing. Now, people who have other classes that they have to worry about good grades and everything, and they're not freshmen, then I can see them as, I can't finish this. I'm just going to have to get it from somebody who has, because it was completely impossible to finish. I spent at least 12 hours on each problem set, at least. And you were supposed to spend you have 3 hours lecture, and you had 2 hours of recitation, so that's 5. You're supposed to spend ideally 7 hours. On the first 2 problem sets, they were easy. I spent 12 hours on them. On the rest of them, I would go, once I was in the TA's place where they have the computers, I was there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 a.m. in the morning, and I still wasn't finished. And the TA who was helping me couldn't figure out what was wrong either. And it didn't make sense. And
What was really bad is though a lot of people couldn't drop it, because I know a lot of course 4 people were in it, a lot of architecture students were in it, because it's one of the optional required courses. You know, you have a choice between a couple of courses that you have to take, and 100's one of them. And they couldn't drop it because it's required. And that's really bad. If a course like this is required, how do they expect people to learn anything? You know, why would it be required if you don't learn anything?
Is bad teaching common around here? Is it common, let's say, Course 6, Electrical Engineering, where you are, Jyoti?
Now, on the average, most of the Course 6, which is Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, has been taught for so long that they've got it fairly well down pat, and they're very organized.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, some of the courses will vary so much between lecturers. If you have a bad lecturer, forget it, you've had it. You know, and that can really make the difference for the courses. But on the average, they're fairly well run. So, I mean, I thought those were pretty good.
You guys understand C better than I did, and you took
We took a 6-unit
a
version
6-unit
of what
version
she
of
did.
the 12-unit version.
We should talk
And-
about how the
but-
professors, the TAs, the grad students, and everyone comes from MIT.
They
So the
do.
problems just propagate.
just-
they
yeah, they
never
just
get better.
Get worse, and they get worse. It's really bad.
This sort of incestuous thing going.
So, why is that bad?
Well, I mean, basically,
don't
if you
get
have a
another
problem,
viewpoint.
if you have a problem with in one particular department, it just stays there. It's like they don't get any new ideas, and they don't get any other views
or
from
whatever.
other places. It's
Well,
all this one
I
thing.
also think there's some certain problems with the attitudes
Yeah.
and just this whole get out, get a job, and the whole science orientated
Mhm.
thing is something that's been there. And then you have professors who went here as undergrads, and they're like, well, we went through this, and it was a good thing, and we're
Yeah.
professors now,
Mm.
so it must be good. And so they continue, problems that were here in the beginning just kind of stay there because everyone went here, and everyone is like, well, we went through it, so it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do realize that there's a problem in the architecture department, though, because there's one reason why I actually am doing Course 4B Film and Video is because one thing with the Course 4 program, the architecture program that they have here, is everybody's views are the same as in regards to what a building should look like, how it should be structured. All the buildings come out looking exactly the same, whether professor does it or a TA does it or a student does it, because they're all programmed to this one kind of code that MIT has. And you don't get any outside ideas at all. The people who even come in and review your work come from within MIT. They're either MIT grad students or they're other professors from other MIT courses. And so basically what I'm going to do is what I'm doing, I'm staying inside Course 4, but just branching out within film and video, doing media type things, and I'm planning on doing actual architectural design in grad school at a later date.
Yeah, where you can get
Where I
some
can get
real
some,
opinions.
I can get some other opinions on to what some of the things I've done previously. I mean, maybe
She's escaping the program.
I'm escaping the programmed MIT building.
How have you seen MIT and MIT students responding to the whole Mideast war?
Who knows?
I'm taking a class, and we're going to have a debate on the war, whether it's a just or an unjust war. And we were speaking about things like that. And most of the people, we were talking about it, that most of the people who are for the war, we think that, we have this theory that it's not that they're misinformed, and it's that they're uninformed about all the issues going on about it. All that they see is that Saddam's terrorizing these people and that we're freeing them. Except they don't see the oil, how the war is helping the economy here, how they really want Saddam out of power after they sold all these arms to him, and now he's a threat, and just all the issues that are surrounding it, and how much more the United States will benefit than Kuwait will from this. And I think people just see us as being the rescuers as opposed to
It's also kind of
self-interest.
distracting.
Yes,
I mean,
it
it's
is.
we're sort of falling apart as a nation, and it's something to distract us and go, oh yay, America, big strong America can go over and beat up Iraq, kind of thing.
A whole lot of patriotism's coming back. All these flags on shirts and everything. All these shirts are coming out with American flags, and these colors don't run, and people are like, yeah, America, and it's just,
it gets our mind.
it takes. I mean, just a little while ago, this thing about flag burning, and now everybody's wearing a flag. I mean, it, as Jyoti said, it's distracting, and it gets people back to wanting to wear flags as opposed to burning them. And I guess.
Well, I mean, it just gets you off the fact that, oh, the president's son's involved with stealing from people in the savings and loans.
Yeah,
just all these
a lot of things that just happen. That's kind of like,
there's homeless people everywhere you look. The fact that there's no preventive medicine care for just the average child. It just gets your mind off of all these things that
are happening
that
within the
happening
country.
Here, and that people were focusing on before, and now all of a sudden this is the big focus point, and that it takes your minds off of that.
On the subject of flags, what do you all think about the Confederate flags that are hanging in the courtyard of Bexley here?
Well, I
She was gonna do a project.
Yeah, I was gonna do a project on it. Personally, I know the person, and I really like her. I really do. I don't think she sees anything wrong about it, and I've kind of backed off on, trying to make her see that, because I feel very negative to that, because I've had incidents in the past where it's been
well, it's
a
always
bad experience.
represented.
It's always represented, but I've had direct problems with people in Confederate flags. And I'm like very strong against that. So
she really doesn't see
but
the connection.
she doesn't see it.
So it's not. I mean, for the people that it bothers, I think that they should go talk to her and explain it to her. But
because she's not the type of person who put it up.
She's not.
I don't think if she
knew.
Yeah. But she doesn't see. She doesn't understand.
She doesn't understand how it could be. I mean, one of my friends told me this before. I don't remember who it was. It might have even been one of you. Whereas she's not really offended by much, so she really can't see how she's offending a lot of people. There's really not much that bothers her, because she's just like that. It's just the way her personality is, and I don't think she sees that as why would that bother somebody if I hang this up in my window? I don't think she sees that as.
Not just
and
that.
I
don't
think
think
a lot of times she likes to get a rile out of people.
Yeah.
And I think she's unaware
that
of
it
the
was
connotations
a racist,
of it. Yeah.
I don't think she knows at all that it's a racist banner.
Because I think if she's the type of person who, if she was aware, I think, of the connotations and what it says to some people, I think she'd take it down.
But then, I don't know, I guess that raises an issue. Since we know, should we tell her?
Yeah, or,
is it,
or should we just excuse it and say, well, we know her and we know she doesn't
yeah.
mean it
Or
that
was
way,
she, or should we let her know that it bothers other people? See, I don't know. I just don't want to get into it because it doesn't bother me, and I know her, and.
I mean, it disturbed me at first. It was like every time I walked into the courtyard,
it still disturbs me, but
disturbed me.
It's like, I mean, I don't see it bothering too many other people, and I mean, that's something I had personally. I had problems with, like when I was younger, and so I mean. Yeah.
It didn't disturb me. It just made me wonder, like.
Yeah, at first it made me wonder. It's like,
wait,
because I didn't really know her all too well. I just kind of started getting to know her better recently. And when she first hung that up, we were kind of like, And then my parents came to visit, and
all of our parents.
And we live right now. We've moved a lot, but right at this place, right now, for the past year, we've lived in Mississippi, and my parents walked in the courtyard and went, "Oh my gosh, we're back in Mississippi!" And it was so funny, and I just laughed. I was like, "No, I know her. It's okay."
My mom's like, "So, do you have any coon killers here?" I'm like, "Mom."
Possum. Go out there, Elvis. Shoot us some possum. Fried us in the frying pan.
I'm so silly like that. Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know.
It's not bad, actually.
No, it's not. I know, I've had it. It's not.
Ew.
Tastes like chicken.
My dad thinks it looks like a rat.
Everything tastes like chicken.
Yes, it's a very big
Well, when
rat.
I ate it, my parents didn't tell me what it was.
Yeah,
They're
as
like,
long as you
eat
know
it.
what it is.
Go ahead, taste it. And so I started eating it, and I was like, okay, now tell me what I'm eating. Oh, it's only a possum. They did that with raccoon, too. I had raccoon before,
I've had
too.
raccoon, possum, squirrel, beaver.
Squirrel beaver.
Tastes just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
chicken.
Tastes just like chicken.
Oh, why don't you give me some friggin' chicken?
Tastes like beef
Yeah,
if it's cooked
if
right.
it's cooked right.
I don't want
After having gone from politics to possum, it's time to bring this edition of Young, Gifted, and Black to a close. We hope you've enjoyed the show. This is your host, Todd Curtis, saying see you next week.